welcome back to my channel. This is going to be the part 2 in the little series that we're going to do all about sort of gentle, respectful, responsive parenting, which would be, if I were to label it, the sort of parenting style that myself and my husband would sort of follow or loosely follow. I know I've been getting loads of questions over on my Instagram page recently, just about how we are raising our kids and lots of curiosity around the approach that we are taking. So in the last video, we talked about the top things that we don't do in our parenting style and our approach with our kiddos, and this video is going to be all about the things that we do. So I hope you find this video helpful, and if you've got any kind of questions relating to any of the topics that I'm bringing up, or you want a little bit more information, do let me know. I'm also going to leave in the description box some of my kind of favorite resources for childhood education, but also respectful, responsive parenting, and some of the resources that I have found really helpful in terms of finding our way in this parenting world. We are all just figuring it out as we go along, and some of these resources might help you find a bit of guidance or support to figure out how you want to do things. And let's dive straight. So the very first thing is something that might come across as a little bit brash, and that is that I make a point, as does my husband, of always apologizing to our children. That goes for apologizing to each other in front of our children, but particularly apologizing to our children when we are out of line. I don't like to pretend that I'm perfect, nor do I like to pretend that parenting is in any way, shape, or form an easy gig. We all know that it is quite possibly the hardest, but also the most important job that you will ever do, is raising your kids. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes we speak really loudly. Sometimes we shout at our kids. Sometimes we snap. Some days we are just so tired that we cannot listen to that a whinge for another 10 seconds, or that your child wants cookies for breakfast, and instead of being able to be patient and kind like you would like to respond, you snap because you know that they can't have cookies for breakfast. Whatever it might be, responding to your child in the way that you would expect them to respond to somebody else by apologizing for your behavior teaches them how to respond themselves. So for instance, if I raise my voice at my toddler earlier on in the day, I try to, within kind of a half an hour of the event actually happening, to sit down with him, to give him eye contact, and to say, Mama's really sorry. She used her strong voice and she didn't need to. That wasn't okay. I frightened you, and I'm really sorry for that. And as a result, it feels weird the first time apologizing to a 2-year-old, but I've seen very quickly that take effect, that he now listens and he sees it, he processes it, so that when he does something that isn't okay, when he shouts or hits or doesn't share his toys, or is behaving in a way that we wouldn't deem appropriate or okay in our household, that without even requiring prompting, he will come up to me and he will apologize for his behavior. So it's sort of responding along with him in the way that I would like to be responded to has done us a world of good. And I'm not sure if I'm going to respond to yes, I'm going to respond to it a little bit in the next question, I think. So hold on for the next point. So along with apologizing to our children when we behave badly to them, so when we raise our voice unnecessarily, or if we're not as patient as maybe we could have been, I also make a point of setting an example for conflict resolution. Oh, good morning, baby. Setting an example for conflict resolution with my husband. So for instance, if we are having a fight over something or other, generally we don't really argue, but if it's over something, something little, we will make a point of, instead of holding on to that fight until the kids are gone to bed, having that argument in a respectful, responsive, appropriate way in front of our children. So obviously no name calling, generally we try to not raise our voices unless we feel as though it's really appropriate, and having that conversation from start to finish in front of our kids. And if we can't do that, we will always make a point of doing our apology to one another in front of our children. It shows them that, relate as a relationship, it's not perfect. We are never going to be perfect. As humans, we are not perfect. We are imperfect beings. And so our children are going to grow up knowing what to expect from relationships, knowing how appropriate and, respectful conflict resolution can take place. I know this is something that for me, my parents separated, but all I ever saw was shouting and anger and fear. And I didn't know that it was perfectly okay to have a respectful argument with your partner, and that how that actually looked and how that could play out. So for us, it was really important that we played that out in front of our children so that they could see how that looked. And it also meant that they would respect us as humans, and we wouldn't be on this pedestal later on in life, so that they felt that when they were imperfect they could come to us. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. So the next thing that we do together as a family is that we will always eat at least one meal a day together. So if we're kind of on our summer holidays, often it'll be more than one, but particularly we make sure that we have our evening meal together. So I know in some other families, you would do like kiddies meal, and then later on adults will sit down and eat together. For us, we make an important point in our day of having that time to reconnect as a family unit. So it gives us not only the time to sit down and take a moment together to kind of check in with one another, to ask how your day was, to have a conversation piece around whatever it was is going on, to support one another, to have a little in on what is going on in each other's lives. But we will always sit down, and as a kind of ritualistic thing, I guess, we will ask each other, kind of in rounds, what was your favorite moment from the day? And that gives us a chance to kind of sit down and also just be grateful for the life that we're in. So even if you've had the dullest day ever, that you can have a moment to say, you know what, I got a hot coffee this morning and just sitting and watching you guys play was really lovely. Or my husband would be in work and he would say, had a really nice chat with, this new guy who was working with us, and it was really lovely to like learn a bit more about him, or whatever it might be. So we're kind of creating life lessons in that, as well as reconnecting and learning about each other's day. We've done that since Jess has been really little, actually, but it's really, really sweet, particularly to hear the smaller kiddos' responses. Is really nice. As well as that, at the table, we're all eating the same food, so it means that we're kind of learning about, I guess, diversity of the different options, different food options. We do baby-led weanings, we'll all eat the same meal, and we'll all have the same food. And as well as we're keep creating kind of good manners around food as well, so table manners. And our kids will copy us, so if we are at the end of the meal, we'll always thank whoever has made the meal. So we will say, thanks daddy, that was really, really lovely, thank you for cooking for us. And then at the end of the meal, we will meal whether or not you finished your plate. We don't encourage that. We will always put our cutlery together on the plate as a sign to say that we're finished. And then even the very littlest of us will bring our plate over to the table and push our chair in. So it means that we are all having our piece in the meal, and it's really lovely. It's a part of our day that we all really look forward to. The next thing then is something that might sound a bit silly, and it's something that means a lot to me because it was something that I did when I was brought up, and I think that it means quite a lot to me, and I think that's kind of where I got it from. But that was, whenever you are leaving someone else's house, that you always leave it cleaner than when you arrived. So if we're over visiting or doing a play date at another friend's house, before we leave, I will gather the kids and we will sit down and we will tidy up whatever messes we have made. And then as well as that, we will always thank that person for allowing us into their home, or for if we've had a cup of tea, we'll say thank you so much for having us. And I know that it's really cute to watch the kids do that, and it really makes me incredibly proud, but it also makes us kind of take a moment for the kindness of our friends and the kindness of our support teams outside of family. So I've got two more things, and this next one is quite a big one, and that is that I will help and support and guide my children in naming their emotions. And this is one of the biggest things that I think, particularly as we come to the terrific twos, that the emotions are huge and sometimes they're even bigger than our bodies. And it's up to us as the parents, as the guardians, to help guide our children and support our children in figuring out how to work through those emotions. And for me, I think naming them is really, really important. And it's something that I feel like I only learned as an adult, in just being able to understand what was going on and how that made me feel, and that, you know, that was very okay. So for instance, if I will see my child, you know, getting frustrated with something, that I will help them understand, you know, if they were trying to, you know, put the lid back on a pen and they were really, really struggling with it and they just couldn't figure it out and they kept trying again and it kept falling off, that I would be able to voice that back to him, and I could say, you know, oh, hey, I can see, you're getting really frustrated with that. Are you frustrated right now because you can't get the lid on the pen? And it means, as an example, I'm setting an example so that he's then able to name that emotion, and then I can help him work through that. I can say, you know, it's really hard when you're trying to do something and it doesn't work out the first time, and it's okay if you want to, you know, take a breath and come back to it, or if you want to ask somebody for some help. And you know, it's okay to just feel that feeling and be frustrated, and, you know, that these are what your different options are, and here's how I can support and guide you while you're figuring this out. So I found that that has been really helpful, and sometimes all it takes is just naming it. So as a result, if he is, you know, frightened of something, if he is nervous about something, if he is a bit worried about something, he can then tell me what's going on. So instead of, you know, lashing out, and responding physically where it wasn't appropriate, he can tell me how he's. And the last one that we do, as a family, and this is a fun one, but it's also intense, is I let my kids get messy. So we do loads of sensory play right from the time they're very little. So Archer is only 6 months, but we are just starting to do kind of messy stuff with him now. I let my kids roll in the dirt. I let them play in the muddy puddles. I let them make soups when they're in the forest out of just whatever sort of muck they can find. I let them figure it out, and I let them get messy from head to toe. Getting messy is a sensory experience, it's a whole body experience, it's a learning experience, and I don't think that personally kids should be clean and tidy all the time. So it's something that I encourage, and I also encourage my kids to help me tidy up afterwards. So it's something that we will often do as a family, and it's something that I encourage my kids not to get worried about. So for instance, if they are making a big old mess and, you know, just letting, you know, the Play-Doh smear all over the place, that I, you know, will say, oh my gosh, like that, you know, you're having so much fun here, I can really see that, and like, you know, when you're finished playing with your Play-Doh, I'll help you and we'll tidy it up together. So I let them immerse themselves fully in the learning that is play, and try not to get too worried about it, because at the end of the day, it is just mess. And when it comes to the memories that our children will have of play and just enjoying themselves, that's what they're going to remember. They're not going to remember, oh my gosh, my mom always had a clean house. So memories and experiences is where I'm at. I hope you found this video helpful. I hope it's been a bit of fun to film. And last night I was kind of sitting down just thinking about what do we do and what do we not do as a family, and trying to kind of figure out where our morals sit, as a home. And I hope that it's kind of given you guys some food for thought. And let me know if you would like to see some more content relating to gentle parenting, responsive parenting, and if you've got any ideas for future videos. I'll see you in the next one.